Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I don't know if you know about this. Did you hear Saturday Night Live is turning 50? Yeah, so something a little different today. I was trying to figure out when would be the best time to do this, and I decided today. The choices were today, Saturday, or Sunday, but I went with today because today is the kickoff for the Saturday Night Live 50 weekend. Today's daily comedy news is only about SNL. I'm going to dive into best sketches ever, best characters ever, so stick around for that. If SNL doesn't interest you, you are dismissed. Tonight on Peacock, it's the SNL 50 Homecoming Concert, a 3-hour live concert at Radio City. Jimmy Fallon is your host. Musical performances from past SNL musical guests, including Arcade Fire, Backstreet Boys, Bad Bunny, Bonnie Raitt, Brandy Carlisle, Brittany Howard, Chris Martin, David Byrne, Devo, Eddie Vedder, Jack White, Jelly Roll, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Mumford & Sons, Post Malone, Preservation Hall Jazz Band, Robin, the B-52s, The Roots, and more. This is on Peacock, starting at 8 Eastern today. I also saw a spoiler that Will Ferrell and Anna Gasteyer are going to do their middle school sketch thing. I have no patience for that sketch, but that's going to be part of the show as well. On Saturday on NBC, now this has already aired, but it'll be back on. Ladies and Gentlemen, 50 Years of SNL Music, a feature-length documentary celebrating the 5 decades of SNL's musical performances and musical comedy sketches. This thing includes interviews with musicians like Bad Bunny, Elvis Costello, Miley Cyrus, Billie Eilish, Dave Grohl, Debbie Harry, Mick Jagger, Dua Lipa, DMC, Casey Musgraves, Paul Simon, Justin Timberlake, Jack White, and more. Also interviewed Gene Curtin, Jimmy Fallon, Eddie Murphy, Ego Nwodim, Conan O'Brien, Maya Rudolph, Paul Schaefer, Sarah Sherman, and various SNL band members, plus Lonely Island's Andy Samberg and the other 2 Lonely Island guys. This thing re-airs Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC proper. It will also be on Peacock. If you've never seen episode 1 of Saturday Night Live, captured in the recent film Saturday Night, well, an exaggerated version, that movie is fantastic. It's on Netflix. Stop listening to me right now and go watch that movie. I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Anyway, in the SNL slot on Saturday Night Live, the original broadcast from October 11th, 1975, your host, George Carlin, musical guests Billy Preston and Janice Ian. Then, Sunday night, which is weird that they did it on a Sunday. Like, I get how TV works, but the show's called Saturday Night Live, and you're doing the thing on Sunday night. Sunday night, the big 50th anniversary special, 8 p.m. on NBC. Hot ticket in Studio 8H. Can you imagine the audience in this thing? Lorne Michaels declared years ago, no plus ones. Scheduled to appear, Kenan Thompson, Adam Sandler, Amy Poehler, Andy Samberg, Chevy Chase, Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, Fred Armisen. I'm just saying Eddie Murphy like that's not a big deal. Eddie Murphy, Fred Armisen, Garrett Morris, Gene Curtin, Jason Sudeikis, Jimmy Fallon, Kate McKinnon, Kristen Wiig, Lorraine Newman, Maya Rudolph, Molly Shannon, Pete Davidson, Seth Meyers, Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan, Will Ferrell, Will Forte, Martin Short, and more. Former hosts who will appear include Adam Driver, Ayo Edebiri, Bad Bunny, Dave Chappelle, John Mulaney, who's also a former writer for the show, Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus, Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, Pedro Pascal, Peyton Manning, Quinta Brunson, Robert De Niro, Sabrina Carpenter, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Martin, Tom Hanks, and Woody Harrelson. Sunday night, NBC and Peacock, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Looking ahead, I'm going to cover this on Tuesday's podcast. I'm going to watch it, but to put together a show at midnight to get it out, I'll do a better job if we wait the extra day. So on FAQ, who was in the first SNL cast and why won't all of them appear? One of the FAQ answers, why they're not appearing, why aren't Gilda Radner and John Belushi appearing? Do you know the answer to this? Yeah, they're no longer alive. Dan Aykroyd has not been announced. It is unclear why he may be absent. Aykroyd's publicist did not return the Associated Press's request for a comment on that. Should we do a list? I haven't looked at these. I'm looking at this cold. IndieWire put out an article titled The 50 Best Saturday Night Live Sketches of the 21st Century. I haven't looked at this at all. I like doing these cold. I will flip through it. They wrote, we know what you're thinking. Why choose to highlight only the later seasons of SNL as opposed to the full 50 years? They wrote, being perfectly honest, most of the people involved in making this list weren't born until 1990. Okay, fair enough. Let's see what these millennials think. I'm looking at number 50 here, and I already don't even know what this sketch is. So I'm just going to quick take. You can write me a letter and be like, Johnny Mac, how do you not know what number 50 sketch Mafia Meeting is? No idea. But I don't want to bog down and analyze 50 sketches. I'm just going to quick take here. Number 50 is Mafia Meeting. Number 49, Mark Wahlberg Talks to Animals. 48, December to Remember car commercial. So far, this list sucks. 47, Colonel Angus. 46, Meatballs. 45, Welcome to Hell. 44, Short Shorts for the USA. Will Ferrell doing Will Ferrell things in short shorts. 43, Traffic Altercation. Are these ringing a bell? 42, Dunkin' Donuts. 41, Punk Band Reunion at the Wedding. 40, You're a Rat Bastard, Charlie Brown. 39, What's That Name? 38, Glengarry Glen Christmas Elf Motivation. Wow, this is bad. 37, Bridesmaid Speech. 36, Dream Home Cousins. This list is going to get a lot better, isn't it? For 35, Christmas Robe. 34, Iran So Far, The Lonely Island. 33, MacGruber's Sensitivity Training. 32, Do It on My Own Twin Bed. Jeez, this list is terrible. 31, The Shooting, a.k.a. Dear Sister. 30, Lisa from Temecula. 29, A Thanksgiving Miracle. When does this get good? Okay, it gets good here. 28, Star Wars Undercover Boss, Starkiller Base. 27, Sean Spicer Press Conference. Now we're cooking. 26, Dinner Lobster. 25, The Iceberg on the Sinking of the Titanic. That's Bowen Yang in character. 24, Farewell, Mr. Bunting. 23, Super Showcase Spokesmodels. This is getting bad again. 22, Natalie Raps, Natalie Portman. 21, Chad Horror Movie. 20, Washington's Dream, Nate Bargatze. 19, The Day Beyonce Turned Black. 18, Haunted Elevator featuring David S. Pumpkins. That's only 18. That's all right. 17, Protective Mom. 16, Wells for Boys. 15, Totino's. 14, Katie Couric interviews Sarah Palin. 13, Debbie Downer, Disney World. 12, The Actress. 11, Meet Your Second Wife. You know, that's way up there. I actually, for real, watched that again last night. Somebody had tweeted it. 10, Close Encounter. You remember Kate McKinnon in that one. Pretty good. 9, Stefan on Halloween's Hottest Tips. 8, Lazy Sunday. That's an old-timer. 7, Mom Jeans. Okay. 6, The Lawrence Welk Show. 5, I'm on a Boat. By the way, if 2 of the top 10 are Lonely Island sketches, think about that for a second. 4, Papyrus. 3, Blank in a Box. You remember that one with Justin Timberlake. And again, Lonely Island. So they're 3 of the top 10. Maybe we should give Lonely Island a show. 2, Black Jeopardy with Tom Hanks. That was fantastic. And according to IndieWire, the #1 SNL sketch of the 21st century is Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton address the nation. Amy Poehler and Tina Fey in character there. Not the worst list I've ever seen. Again, I'd have to do homework and come up with my own list, and I'm not going to do that. So it's fine, but I feel like there should be better things, or maybe the things in my mind happened in the 90s, and I've lost track of time. Anyway, let's take the break here. We'll come back, and we'll look at the top 50 cast members, according to USA Today. Okay, another list I haven't looked at yet. I'd like to react. This is from USA Today. SNL turns 50. We rank the best cast members. Over 50 seasons, 167 cast members have appeared on the show. Here's their list. At number 50, Bowen Yang. He's been on the show since 2019. Just gut react here. Now, we've had 167. Do you think there are 49 people better than Bowen Yang? He's pretty strong. I don't know who else is on the list, although I can kind of half see who 49 is because I half scrolled down. If Bowen Yang is 50th, this is a strong list. 49, Lovitz. 48, Sherry O'Terry. 47, Nora Dunn. There's no way Nora Dunn's better than Bowen Yang. There's no way Sherry O'Terry's better than Bowen Yang. But I'm not going to sit here and just nitpick the list. Just accept my premise that Bowen Yang should be higher up this list. I'm not going to keep going. There's no way so-and-so is better than Bowen Yang. 46, Chris Parnell. 45, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. 44, Taran Killam. 43, Sudeikis. 42, Mikey Day. 41, Seth Meyers. 40, Gene Curtin. 39, Beck Bennett. He was on from 2013 to 2021. 38, Tracy Morgan. 37, Lorraine Newman. 36, Vanessa Bayer. 35, Leslie Jones. 34, Tim Meadows. 33, Heidi Gardner. 32, Adie Bryant. 31, Chris Rock. Yeah, I think in terms of SNL, Chris Rock's not the most memorable cast member. 30, Jimmy Fallon. 29, Will Forte. 28, Mike Myers. Mike was a pretty strong ensemble player. Let's see who's ahead of him. Molly Shannon at 27, Chevy at 26, Norm at 25, Anna Gasteyer at 24. I'm not sure I agree with that ranking. 23, Andy Samberg. You know, the guy who came up with 3 of the top 10 sketches. Maybe we ought to have him a little higher, guys. 22, Fred Armisen. 21, Sandler. 20, Cecily Strong. I'm a big fan of hers. 19, Bill Hader. 18, Tina. 17, Daryl Hammond. 16, Jan Hooks, who has been forgotten. USA Today writes, Hooks was the every woman SNL desperately needed in the late 80s, grounding every sketch with her bright smile. 15, Rachel Dratch. Yeah. 14, Bill Murray. 13, Kristen Wiig. 12, Keenan. 11, Dana Carvey. 10, Maya Rudolph. 9, Aykroyd. 8, Kate McKinnon. 7, Chris Farley. 6, Amy Poehler. 5, Will Ferrell. Okay, top 5 here. Will Ferrell. I mean, I'm not the biggest Will fan, but clearly one of the all-times on that show. 4, Belushi. John Belushi. Jim Belushi did not make the top 50, but John Belushi. 3, Gilda Radner. And poor Gilda has just been forgotten. I'm glad she's high up on this list. 2, Phil Hartman. And number 1, the best cast member of all time on Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy. And they write, no cast member has made a bigger impact on the show or created a better launching pad for the career than Eddie Murphy. For 5 years, the man was SNL, the linchpin on which every sketch was built and every joke was centered. From Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, which parodied Fred Rogers with a biting satire of what white people think of the ghetto, to manic mumbling Little Rascal Buckwheat, to a too-far impression of James Brown singing and dancing in a hot tub. It was impossible to take your eyes off Murphy on Saturday nights. Yep, he was incredible. I'm going to call up the Wikipedia of who has been on the show and just see who they might have left out. Comes to mind. So what about somebody like Colin Jost, who's been a writer on the show and anchoring the show for, what is it, a decade already? Victoria Jackson? She was pretty good. That's my era. Dennis Miller? So I guess we're underrating the news desk. I mean, Dennis Miller was a key part of that show. So same comment on Kevin Nealon. I guess we're not really paying attention to the news desk. I mean, Joe Piscopo should have made that list. I'll go back and look at the bottom of the list. That was my SNL. I was a little young for the initial cast, but was definitely watching the Piscopo Murphy years. So just to scrape the bottom here. Bowen, Lovett, Sherry O'Terry. Like, you can't tell me Joe Piscopo shouldn't be ahead of Sherry O'Terry. Nora Dunn. Joe Piscopo. Come on, Joe Piscopo should be on this list. He was Drysdale to Eddie Murphy's Koufax. He was the Keith Richards to Eddie Murphy's Mick Jagger. You know what I'm saying? Like, Piscopo was a huge part of those shows. I know he's been forgotten, but Piscopo was great. He should be on the list. Colin Quinn, again, no love for the news desk. Horatio Sands didn't make it. Rob Schneider didn't make it. Spade didn't make it. Anyway, it's just a list. I'm not going to get too upset about it. Be curious to know who's on your list. That's a good conversation for the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. I will start that discussion. You can chime in. Esquire asked, does Saturday Night Live still matter to young comedians? Abigail Covington tells us about Jess Engel. Jess was auditioning for SNL, a 30-year-old comedian from Midland, Texas. She auditioned in front of Lorne and Colin Jost. Esquire writes, with a deep breath, she stepped into the light and delivered her set, a mix of stand-up and character work, focusing her gaze on Jost, a friendlier face than the famously inscrutable Michaels. Spoiler alert, she didn't get on the show and doesn't know why. She says, they don't give you any feedback. Her team tried to console her with reminders of SNL's low pay and brutal schedule, not to mention the fact that the show hardly mints movie stars like it used to, but it didn't comfort her much. Esquire writes that her agent had a point. First-year cast members on SNL make around $7,000 per episode, compared with the $20,000 to $50,000 per episode that first-time series regulars earn on network TV shows. Previous cast members have described it as a place where you're always at risk, meaning that you're only a few lousy sketches and unremarkable performances from getting canned. Now, interesting paragraph here, and I'm going to spotlight it. When you hear my conversation tomorrow with Mike Chisholm from the Letterman podcast, we talked about a little of this, and I hadn't read this article yet, so it's interesting that this article says something I will say to you on tomorrow's podcast. Esquire writes, things are different today. Even with all his power, Lorne Michaels hasn't been able to escape the realities of a contracting industry. Consider the recent track records of productions from SNL alumni. Shrill, starring Aidy Bryant, was canceled after 3 seasons. There was something called Shrill, starring Aidy Bryant, that ran 3 seasons. On what? Where? I have no idea what that is. The other 2, created by 2 SNL head writers, ended abruptly amid allegations of workplace abuses. That was a good show, too. Kenan Thompson's Kenan lasted 2 shows before being canceled. Apple TV Plus dropped Cecily Strong's Schmigadoon after 2 seasons. HBO has yet to renew Michael Che's That Damn Michael Che for a 3rd season. MacGruber got 1 season. Pete Davidson's Bupkis lasted 8 episodes before Pete himself pulled the plug on it. I think that's more about Pete than Lorne's power. In 2022, Brian Austin Johnson told Marc Maron he doesn't plan on ever leaving the show. He says, when I look out at the media landscape, what am I going to be doing in 2 years? Where am I going to go next? I read that as the article has it. Did you catch? There is no Brian Austin Johnson. It's James Austin Johnson. I'll leave it in. Esquire has it as Brian, and I just read it because I'm a talking horse. They then spoke to comedian Ashley Everhart, who says SNL's not where people go to be discovered anymore. It's where discovered people go. I have people on my TikTok and my Instagram all the time saying, why aren't you on SNL? You should be on SNL, as if that's the singular highest achievement. Hey, Lauren, call her bluff. Offer her a spot. I want to hear her say no. It's like, congrats, you did it. You got the one salary job on the planet that aligns with this thing you've been training in. And our final SNL story of the day, the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, will preserve a collection of the show's creative papers from the first 5 years of the show. Lorraine Newman and original writer Alan Zweibel will guest curate the collection, which includes the script from the first SNL episode hosted by George Carlin, which airs when? This is a quiz. Were you paying attention to the first half of the podcast? When is it airing? That's right, Saturday night at 11:30 Eastern. Well, that script will go into the collection, along with drafts for weekend update segments, early versions of the Belushi Samurai sketches, and the Gilda Radner character known as Rosanna are also included. Zweibel said, these papers are a rare encapsulation of the creative chaos and revolutionary spirit of SNL's formative years, when so many classic sketches and memorable characters were first brought to life. It was a watershed moment in comedy history that I was fortunate to be part of, and I'm grateful to know that our contributions are being preserved by the National Comedy Center's Carl Reiner Department of Archives and Preservations. And that is your comedy news for today. Here's the plan. Tomorrow, Mike Chisholm from the Letterman Pod and I talk for almost an hour. When Letterman went on Found the other day, I reached out to Mike and I was like, hey, can we talk about Letterman for 10 minutes? And you lock us two in a Zoom, and we wind up going for an hour. If you can't wait for tomorrow, Mike releases the Letterman Pod on Friday. That is a video podcast. So if you're curious of what the heck I look like and you want to look at two middle-aged guys in Zoom boxes for an hour, that's a thing you could do. The Letterman Pod also comes out in audio form, so you could just download that, or, wait till tomorrow. Here's what you do. Download Mike's and then delete it. That way he gets credit for the download, and then listen to me tomorrow to support my advertisers. That's a good plan, right? Yeah. No, Letterman Pod's really good. You should check that out. Sunday will be a normal episode, and if anything else with SNL develops between now and then, I'll talk about it on Sunday. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you're a new listener who's discovering this via the Letterman Pod or perhaps my new YouTube loop, in case you missed that, I just started a live stream. It's 24/7. The audio from the last 2 weeks of the podcast, the occasional guest in the mix, kind of like a radio station that just plays daily comedy news. That's how I'm programming it. I'm not overthinking it. There's no video. It just runs. You dive in, you go, oh, that was good, or I'm sick of this guy, I'm bored, and you'd bail. It just runs 24/7 daily comedy news podcast. But you obviously know how to download the thing. I guess you do, unless you're listening on the stream. Anyway, I'm here 7 days a week. I'm going to stop babbling. See you tomorrow.